A man spends his whole life chasing his purpose. But what is purpose? A lot of people like to throw the word around, but not really explaining or showing how to really find your purpose. If you don't know what your purpose is, you're kind of like a feather in the wind. You're just aimlessly walking through life. It can be very chaotic. I'm here to give you 3 ways that you can find your purpose easily, and it will require effort, but you just gotta expect that. Number 1, being in a conscious state of mind. This might be a no-brainer for some people, but being in a conscious state of mind allows you to kind of choose what you think and choose what thoughts that you want to think. The ways that you can become more conscious is to be more mindful. So go meditate for 10 minutes, go for a walk, get rid of your phone, go journal a little bit, try to understand your mind and how it works. Things like that, being more conscious. Get away from some foods that might give you brain fog. Anything that causes brain fog, like sugar, carbs, things like that. Number 2, limiting input. This means that whatever you're digesting in your mind, whether that be something good or bad, let's say something bad. Let's say you're scrolling on TikTok, you're constantly being fed information and your brain's constantly trying to digest and trying to decipher what you're seeing on your phone. And it's like, after an hour on TikTok, you might feel some brain fog, your brain might feel drained. That is a thing that that's a reason why you have to get rid of some inputs. Like for example, you might need to get off your phone, stop texting this one person, or get off this one app, it might be negative. Or you might be scrolling on YouTube just watching videos that you don't even really need. Things like that is really important because there's so many things that you can input in your mind throughout the day, and it's really hard to really stay focused nowadays. So I don't blame you if you're constantly distracted by things. I was 100% distracted. I used to work 40 hours when I used to work 4 10-hour shifts in a row, like 4 days. I would be around people a lot, and they'd always play music, and then they'd always have this conversation, this thing was funny, this thing was funny. It would be a lot of information for 10 hours, and I'd go home and I'd try to get some work done, and I couldn't even focus because of all the input throughout the day. Like a lot of it wasn't even worth inputting. It's like a stupid conversation or just some stupid song that they're playing or whatever, or something that was funny that they thought. It's just those types of inputs you need to watch out for. So when you're trying to decipher your purpose, limiting inputs, you get to form your own beliefs, and you get to your own thoughts start to form instead of outside forces like friends, family, social media, influencers, stuff like that. So when I say limiting your input, that's a really broad thing to say because there's so many things that you could limit that you're inputting in your mind throughout the day. And that's why I said being conscious first, because being conscious is just the first step. Being conscious, limiting input that is detrimental to your mind that you don't even really need. Number 3, seeking isolation. And this one is actually my favorite because I used to always, in the beginning of self-improvement in the winter, I started last winter, I'd always be inside a lot. I'd go to the gym, come home, and I'd be in my room all day. And I'd be by myself. I wouldn't even go out of my room to talk to my parents. And it was a blessing and a curse because 1, I was really fucking lonely, and I ain't gonna cap, like that shit was painful. But I didn't really have a lot of friends to talk to either. I only had a couple because a lot of the other people that I used to talk to, either they're busy with their lives or we're just going down different paths, stuff like that. So seeking isolation, why it's a curse is because it can be really bad for your mental health because you're not experiencing social behavior. Like being around people is really good for you, healthy, you know what I mean? But it's also a blessing to be isolated because you get to form your own thoughts, you get to form your own beliefs, you get to really find out who you are. These 3 steps really did help me hone down my purposes because a lot of the time I was really distracted, and then I tried to figure out a problem, or I try to go do some work, or I try to figure out what my purpose is, and I couldn't even think because all the brain fog, all the distractions throughout the day. It was like I was walking through a foggy forest. And then once that fog went away, I could see what paths there were that I could go down. And so pretty much not being in a conscious state of mind creates the fog. And then being distracted is kind of like seeing, oh, like look at this path, this animal. Oh, look at this tree. This tree looks cute. And you're just being distracted. You're kind of going off course from what you're really trying to achieve. When you are isolating yourself, some things that you have to do is kind of get off your phone. That's just a no-brainer. But a lot of people, when they seek isolation, they're still on their phone. They're still in contact with people. That's not isolation. Isolation is when you're by yourself and you're around nothing. So what I used to do to really try to bring back my deepest desire, my deepest core belief for my purpose, I would literally sit in front of a wall for like 10, 20 minutes. It wasn't easy, of course, and it's not going to be easy because who the fuck looks at a wall for 20 minutes? No one. No one fucking looks at a wall for 20 minutes, right? Once I sat in front of the wall, I started to try to almost rip back the distraction beliefs and like all the input that wasn't necessary. And I'd create a problem in my head while looking at the wall and then try to solve that problem with just what I know, not looking up information and not getting advice from other people, just trying to give myself advice, trying to solve the problem on my own. And that's one thing I would do. And another thing I would do is sit in front of a journal. Journaling is fucking amazing, man. It really is. And what I would do is I'd give myself a question, just like how you'd look at the wall. You'd give yourself a question, and then you look at the question from a third person perspective, like from the outside, and you kind of get a better understanding of what the question really means and why you're asking that question. So the human brain is designed to solve problems. So when you do have a problem in front of your head and you really want to solve it, you will solve it eventually. It just takes time. It's not going to be like, oh, if I sit by myself for 5 minutes, I will find the answer. No, you have to. It's taken me weeks, days, and even sometimes months to come back to conscious state of mind and really write down and figure out what my purpose is. And it's gonna be hard. You gotta kind of expect that, but it's worth it, because if you spend a week trying to figure it out, no distractions, no input, conscious state of mind, you take 1 week for your whole life. 1 week that you can sit down by yourself and actually figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life. Purpose is something that's really serious, you know what I mean? A lot of people don't take it seriously, but people think of purpose and people think, oh, like I'm gonna go to college and get a good job and then go get some good money that I can go on vacation sometimes and then have a family, and then if you want to do that, go ahead. But that way the society is set out for a lot of us is just not for me. And if you're watching this, I'm guessing it's really not for you either. Finding your purpose, don't expect it to come so easily, because I thought something was my purpose. Like I thought just making money online and then going to do whatever I want was like my purpose. It's almost like people, like for example, when you go on self-improvement, you try to look for the business model that you want to do so you can make some money, so then you can go travel the world and find yourself, and then you could maybe do whatever you want. I chose that route at first, but it ended up leaving me with a void. I chose a bunch of business models, and I took one business model, I did it for a couple months. I did it for like 6 to 9 months, and it failed. I made some money, but I've realized that this does not align with my purpose. This business model does not align with what I want to do, and that's why it feels so meaningless when I do it. That's why I don't even want to do it, because it doesn't align with what I really want to do, so why am I even doing it? It's kind of like how people go to college sometimes to find themselves, and they spend all that money, and they get distracted from this party this time, oh, this event, oh, you have this homework, this test. They don't even have time to find themselves. And so it's like, by the time they graduate and like they maybe get a job after a couple years, they're just chasing money. They're just trying to pay the bills, and they're distracted. So it's like, I don't blame you for being distracted. It's okay. But if you really want to find out what your purpose is, you kind of have to make a commitment to yourself and a commitment to your future self. Like, I'm going to figure it out now so I can start doing it for you, for your future self, because that's who you're really doing it for. Be conscious, limit your input, and seek isolation are the 3 things that you can do even today. Meditate, journal, look at a wall, sit by yourself. Also, I didn't mention this before, but asking other people who know you really well, just have, when you have an idea, when you have certain ideas of what your purpose is and you're trying to figure it out, you kind of would get visions, and then tell these visions to the people that you know, that you are closest with. You're kind of ranting to them about what you really think it is, and then they'll kind of readjust it. Oh, but do you really think this? Oh, what about this? Like, they'll start asking you questions that you didn't know to ask yourself. So also finding people, like, this is kind of contradicting to the seeking isolation. Asking people that truly know you will, that's because I ended up doing that after, because I always thought, oh, no one else knows me, like I have to figure this out by myself. Don't do it by yourself sometimes. Sometimes you really need to go to people that you trust and that you know and ask them, and so they can ask you, and then you can figure it out. So yeah, those are my 3 things, and I hope this helped you.